Welcome to the Mortgage Podcast, where we give tactics, strategies, and inspiration to get you to 10 plus loans per month. We talk a lot about how to make a ton of money in mortgage while also being happy and thriving in your personal life. If you want to be a mortgage millionaire, you're in the right place. Hello, and welcome back to the Mortgage Podcast with Todd Screamer. Thanks for joining me today. I've got a concept called becoming Yoda. So this is called 3 Elements to Becoming Yoda. You're like, Todd, what's the Yoda thing? Well, I like Star Wars. I grew up with Star Wars. Yoda was the grand poopah. He was the master. He could make you levitate with his brain. So he was the one that became the master. You want to become the master influencer, the master salesperson, the top producer, or the really good producer that has a great life. You're doing 10 loans a month, making money, saving money, and working reasonable hours. So that's Yoda to me. That's just a funny name. And when you think about becoming Yoda loan officer, I got 3 subjects for you. This is kind of a strategic thought with some details. The first one is we have to master how to serve the loan client or the consumer. The second one is we have to master how to get business people to send you referrals. How to get business people to send you referrals. And then third is we need the technical loans and knowledge and process on how to close all those loans. And those are 3 elements. Like if you look at a pie chart, these are each pretty equally weighted as to what we need to do in order to make a high 6-figure income or 7-figure income in the loan officer business. So let's break down each one just briefly, so that it's not too complicated, but we can get a little bit of details there. When you're talking about how to serve the consumer, you got to be really good at setting the initial appointment. So many loan officers are like, let me sign in my online form, and then I'll call you back, and then my assistant will send you a list, and then this, and we make people jump through all these hoops instead of just set the appointment. Hey, I can meet you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Here's what to bring. Here's the directions. I'll see you at 3 o'clock. If I call someone, I just want to be served. I called the doctor. So I called the doctor 3 times yesterday. I had the day off and I had this little project and I'm like, hey, I want to get this looked at. And it's been something that's nagging me. I called the doctor's office twice, about 3 hours apart. And before I called them, I filled out the online form to set an appointment. And they still haven't called me back, still haven't texted me back, and I still don't have an email. Now, this is 24 hours later, and this doctor needs to see me. Right? He wants new customers. He said it. It's on his website. He said he wants new customers. So, but now what do I got to call 5 or 6 times to get an appointment? Don't make it hard for people to set an appointment. That's number 1. Number 2, do a professional loan presentation that develops rapport and explains the process that they're getting ready to go to, because it's complicated. If you ever met with a really good doctor, they will take a moment and they will tell you exactly what they're going to do during surgery. They're going to tell you how you're going to feel afterwards. They're going to tell you the recovery time, and they're going to do all those things so that they can decrease your fear. And you can look at them and say, I love that guy or that woman. They really did a great job. Okay. They controlled my emotions and they told me exactly what's going to happen. Okay. That's what a loan presentation is. Now, I've been beating this drum for only 25 years. And I bet you about 5% of loan officers actually have any sort of presentation to what they're doing. And then they wonder why the client is like, I didn't know I needed that stuff. Why did you ask for stuff twice, right? All these things, because you didn't take the time to educate them, okay? So you've got to develop a loan presentation. I've got it on YouTube. Jim Reed has it on YouTube. I've got all kinds of videos. Like, the information is out there on how to do it, okay? Setting the appointment, professional loan presentation, and then really knowing how to explain guidelines and implement guidelines for the different loan programs. Those are the 3 things you got to do to get really good at solving the consumer, the borrower's issues. If you mastered those 3 things, you're going to do really well in that category. Number 2 is master business to business selling. Well, there's 3 steps I've got for this. One is we got to develop a list. Like some of you guys know, I run a separate company called Jolt. We just get people last month over 1,000 appointments with top producers. People are like, oh my God, how do you do that? Well, we do it by first developing a list. So we take all the realtors in the whole area, usually a 50-mile radius. We take the top 6% of realtors. That's who's on our list. Okay. So we have criteria to develop a list. So 72% of realtors did not close a transaction last year. So I don't want to call 72% of them. They'll all meet with us, but
There's no business there. So I only call on the top 6%. That doesn't mean that has to be your list. It's just an example. Number two, I call them with something of value. I call it an offer. So we call them with a great offer. And it's like fishing. Sometimes you use power bait. Sometimes you use salmon eggs. Sometimes you use an allure. So you got to see what the fish are biting. And you have to present an offer so that they have a chance to say yes to something. Okay. Number three, you meet with them and you do a process I call two-step close, which is finding the needs that they really have and then solving them in a particular way. So if you mastered those three things, you would be really good at business-to-business sales, which is why most loan officers don't close more business. Okay. Most loan officers have one or two or three people that send them business and everything else is hairy scary. And they get a loan from someone at their church and then they get some loan from their old high school buddy. And then they get one past client and they have those are all good things, but there's no predictability to it. So you got to master the borrower process. You have to master the business-to-business sales process. And the third thing is technical knowledge. Now, every single loan officer I've ever met in my life tells me that their technical abilities are superb. When I ask them to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10, they always tell me an 8 or a 9, 90% of the time. The truth is, most loan officers, they don't really know products and how to apply the proper product to the person. So there's 3 steps to this. Number 1 is you got to have a process of evaluation. I was taught a very simple process: cash, credit, income. How much money do they have? What is their credit score? And how much money are they putting down? Or what's their income? And did I calculate the income correctly? So there's got to be a process for evaluation. If someone comes to me and they have $10,000 and they want to buy a $400,000 house, they either need a FHA loan, maybe they're a veteran, or they need some sort of down payment assistance program. That's it. We don't talk about any other products because they don't fit and they're just going to confuse them. I do need to explain why they only have access to a couple products, because they don't have a big down payment. Okay. The other big payments, those are lots of other loans, whether it's jumbo, non-QM, conventional, all that, but they don't have the money to do any of those loans. Okay. Unless they can get a big gift. So you got to have a process for evaluating how does that borrower's personal situation fit into the guidelines. Number 2, you got to be more direct with people, more confident with people. I got involved in a loan, and basically what happened was the lady was on disability and she was switching from one disability to another disability. The loan officer was trying to close the loan in between those 2 income streams. And I'm like, bud, you just gave bad advice. You can't, her temporary disability is ending. The new temporary disability is starting. You need proof of the new disability, and you're trying to close the loan at the end of the first one, when we have a letter saying that it ends on that date. She doesn't have any income on that date. So the person just misevaluated the loan, and it's that simple. He just didn't look at the documentation. And then he was afraid to call them and tell them that. So I'm like, look, I'll do the call with you. I will call him behind you. I'll call him before you call him, but they got to be called. So that's just being confident. That's just being more direct. Hey, this issue came up. I didn't foresee it sooner. We've got to change course. And all we had to do is change the close of escrow date a week later. So be more direct and more transparent with people. What I used to do is I would have all the paperwork out and we're doing the loan and I had rapport. I'd say, hey, and I slid all the paperwork away. Can I talk to you for about 10 minutes? How the underwriter is going to talk to me? Yeah, Todd, that's great. We'd love it. Okay, here's the issue. You guys have a lot of income. You know, what we talk about ratios and all that, not a problem for you guys. You guys are making a really good income. Your credit is in the bottom 25% of Americans. So my underwriter is going to be concerned that you're not going to pay us back. So I'm going to teach you how we're going to try and overcome that. So having those moments where you're not just trying to get a loan, you're trying to truly communicate and help people so that they can see the loan for what it is. And then the last one is you got to do 500 loans. And people are like, Todd, I've never done 500 loans. I've done 60. I said, okay, well, when you get to 500, you'll be really good. But if you don't ever increase your business and you don't get enough reps, you're not going to be great. And this is a simple thing where people are like, how do I become great without doing 500 loans? You got to study a lot. I'm not exaggerating when I said I read guidelines every day of my life for about 18 years, every day of my life, because I'm a student of my trade. And a lot of people, literally, I'm talking about over 90% of loan officers, they tell themselves they're great at doing loans, but they're really not. They don't really know how to do the different types of loans. and then they put their foot in their mouth, and then they blame the processor or the underwriter and all this stuff, and it just becomes this huge mess. Okay. So loans are difficult. Loans are very technical. Everyone is a project or a snowflake, right? Every snowflake is different. So it makes it a lot harder if you don't really know how to do the loan process, and we start being honest with ourselves and just say, look, I need to study this a lot more. So how do we become Yoda? 3 elements. Number 1, master the process of meeting with the borrower. Number 2, you master the process of selling business to business. And number 3, you master the process of the technical side of the business. If you can focus on those things, take one at a time and really learn it, and it'll take 100 hours each, and you really study it, you will double, triple, quadruple your income. But we've got to stay focused, and we can only learn one thing at a time. When we try and learn 10 things at a time, it doesn't work. So what's the simple process for all this? If I were talking to anyone, I think this advice fits anybody, where you're doing 2, 3, 4, 5 loans a month, but you really want to do 10, you're going to have to take about 30 minutes a day, and you're going to have to focus on this. Pick one of these that's the hardest for you, that's the weakest, but it will make you the most money, and focus on that one thing for a half an hour a day for like 6 months, and you'll grow your skill set. I've used this example before, but about 7 months ago, I started a swing change in golf. So I started taking lessons again, and I knew that my swing was wrong. And so I have to meet with the instructor several hours over several weeks. Now it's been 7 months. Now I'm a pretty fast learner. 7 months. I am hitting better, but nowhere close to what I want to. I understand the swing better, but I'm not able to execute it very often. And I tend to know when I'm doing it wrong. I'm to the point now to where I can pretty much tell what I did wrong during the swing process. How much longer will it take me to go from a 9 handicap to a 6, which is my goal? Probably my total guess is another year or 2. I don't really know. And a lot of instruction and a lot of time hitting golf balls and a lot of paying for instruction. So, but I'm committed to it. It's important to me. So if this is important to you, you're going to have to put that same type of time and energy into your career so that you can get really good at these 3 big things. This is the magic. If you ask me what's the weakest with most people, for sure it would be business to business selling first. It would be technical knowledge second, and it would be selling to the consumer third. So meaning the weakest for most loan officers is selling business to business so that you can get lots of referrals. The second weakest is technical knowledge. The third is the consumer. When you're doing 2, 3 deals a month, you can really screw up with the consumer and it's not a big deal. But when you're trying to close 10 consumers a month and you did it wrong from the start, then you have all these escrow problems as people go through, and it becomes very overwhelming. That's why I say that that's third, because you got to get the referrals before you can learn to handle a lot of business. Okay. So I hope this helped. I want you to send this to one loan officer that you're like, hey, I really like this loan officer. They could benefit from this. Please just text it to them. It would mean the world to me, because my goal is to teach people how to get to that high 6-figure income, do 10 loans a month, take care of your family, save a lot of that money, really build wealth, and really enjoy a career that you're getting better and better and better at every single day, week, and month. Have a beautiful day. I appreciate you.